Hi, and welcome to this episode. Today we're interviewing Tara J Hannon, who lives in Maryland by the Chesapeake Bay with her daughters and husband. She's the author and illustrator of the early graphic novel series Birtle with AMP Kids and the forthcoming chapter book series The Only Ghost by Penguin Workshop, coming in 2025. She's also excited to be illustrating the graphic novel series Groucho, the Grouchy Groundhog, written by Lydia Lukitis, slated for 2025. Tara enjoys books with both heart and humor. When not writing or illustrating, she can be found being so uncool it's almost cool with her daughters and husband and jogging. She can rarely be found sleeping, and she's okay with that.
That's a good intro.
Yeah.
I really enjoy this. I've been a fan of hers for a while, and I'm happy to have her here on the podcast.
Yeah, it was really cool to meet her. I was trying to think about how long when I started following her on Instagram, and I think it was, yeah, it's been years, like many
Way
years.
before 2019 or so,
Many,
we
many
started seeing
years.
her work.
Yeah, I've been
And
a
her
fan.
work was like it was one of the, like, you see the illustration and you're like, that is so cool. And it's getting
Yeah.
better and better. And then,
Yeah.
like, you can tell when someone is about to hit it, and then they
Yeah.
hit and her books come out.
Yeah.
And you see characters that she had been creating that
Yes.
eventually end up in her book. So
Yeah.
it was really cool to see her. And she's just as cool in person. Super
Yeah.
laid back
Yeah.
person. I love her. Her personality is lovely.
She's adorable.
Yeah. And this was a good episode because she talked about how she intended for some things to be picture books, but they ended up being chapter books. And
Or a
we
graphic
talk about,
novel.
or graphic novels.
Yeah.
And she talked about it has a good information because it talked about how you submit that versus how you submit a picture book. So
Yeah.
stay tuned.
Well, thank you for having me on. I'm actually really excited about this. I'm excited to talk to you guys. And this is my first podcast. So,
Oh, I'm so honored.
So nice.
That's awesome.
I've been listening to all of your interviews and all of your more informative episodes, and I'm just a big fan of what you guys are doing. So,
Aww.
thank you.
Oh, that's so
Thank
sweet.
you. That's wonderful.
That
We're just
makes us
glad someone's
happy.
listening.
Yeah, we're like, is anyone, are we just talking out into the void?
I mean,
Our
that's not,
friends.
you're not alone in that. I feel like as creators, we're probably all living in that space a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Very true.
Yeah, for sure.
We
So,
have some questions that we had set up, and I know that we had talked and asked you if you feel comfortable talking about anything. So if we ask you something and you're like, you know what, I don't want to talk about that, just say so and we'll edit it out. And
Okay.
it
All
won't
right.
it won't happen. Like, it never
Yeah.
happened.
Listeners will never know what
They will never know.
topic we avoided.
Because I wanted to see if you wanted to talk about what happened with your agent, the agent catastrophe. And do you remember then we went to the book fair, and there was a thing that really touched me, that, like, it made me ponder how the parents and the kids were like, oh, the boy book and the girl book,
Mhm.
because of the colors, it was just
Mhm.
automatic. And I'm like, wait a minute. That
I have feelings about that too, but we're just really gonna push it. We're just gonna try to push it. I feel like some people just kind of they see it a certain way, but like, blue versus pink and purple and that sort of thing. But I kind of almost feel like it's nice if a little boy is going to enter the book on book number 2, which is blue and orange, and then love it, then there's no issue buying book number 1 or reading book number 1 wherever they're reading it, which is purple and pink. Whatever their entry point is okay. But
yeah. So the nice thing about it is because it doesn't really matter if you, like I say, if you enter on number 2, because it's a standalone story. It doesn't depend on number 1 for it to stand. It's like, okay, in the number 1, the friendship begins. In number 2, there's another friendship that ends, that enters the story. But yeah, I do like how you can pick up number 2, number 1, and still be able to enjoy the whole story.
yeah,
Yeah, so
and, I don't know. I feel like the gendering of colors is such a strange thing to me. I know that it's become so innate in all of us, but you know, I mean, even my girls do it. I have two daughters, and for a long time, not now so much, they're sort of moving away from pink because they don't want to do the whole princess pink thing. And so there is like a very strong vibe with both colors. And I kind of want to be like, but like girls are like super strong and super awesome. So it's not a bad thing if you like pink, like if that's what you're associating pink with as a bad thing. I'm like, we just need to eradicate that part. It's just a color.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just a color.
Yeah.
Is there a number 3 coming?
No, not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
My editor, who was amazing, she kind of asked me if I was interested. And obviously I was like, yes, 100%. I sent her some ideas, and we haven't heard anything yet. So I think it is really just a numbers game, and I just have to wait and see how the numbers are.
Oh yeah, I know that, and it drives me crazy. Wait how your first book does to see if we do another one, because sometimes the second one or the third one pushes the other ones up.
Yeah.
So, and the sales depend on how much push was put by the publisher too.
Yeah, it's like you really have to surrender to it, or you get really swallowed up by the obsession with like how much sales you have. And there's really no way to tell how you're doing sales wise unless you're asking your editor directly. And even then they might not know in that exact moment how it's going. So I'm kind of just hoping that people are buying and loving it and sharing it.
So there is something to be said about just doing the book and really enjoying that you did it, that you put it out there, and however it sells is just a different sorry, a different game altogether.
Yeah, and of course, you know, we do what we can. Like the festivals are great and super fun, school visits and signings and that sort of thing. So, but to think that I could push the needle too far might be another form of denial.
Yeah, I kind of wishful thinking. I mean, seriously, how much can we do it? Like, I think that's the lovely thing about going with traditional publishers, that they have push where we don't, you know, going to libraries and schools by the box, you know, where we are just like in a fair, you can sell 20 maybe on a great day, you know.
Yeah. So, and that always feels great. Like, it's good. Made 20 new friends today.
Yeah, that's so true. 20 little fans. Sunny, you want to take some of these?
Yeah. I was waiting to jump in.
Yeah, I usually over talk and then I don't give Sunny a space to breathe.
Oh, no, it's fine. It's fine. Well, speaking of this book, could you tell us about like what was your inspiration for it, and where did Birtle come from? Like,
well, Birtle came from the idea of the word Birtle. So I remember I was walking with my mom and my daughter, who was maybe 5, maybe 6 at the time. And we were just kind of doing some fun little wordplay game where we were combining animal names, like what would a rhinoceros and an elephant be? And we're like, a renelephant. Like, we're just kind of making up words. And then Birtle came from a bird and a turtle. And so I was like, that's actually adorable. And so I kind of wrote that down. And then I was like, okay, now I have to give it a story. And so I had come up with the idea that a featherless baby bird, fell into Turtle Town and saw nothing but turtles, so assumed she was a turtle. So I got that far, but at that point it was still a picture book. But when I was when I was kind of working it out in my head, it was all dialogue for the most part. And so, and the storyline, just, I really needed more time and space for it. So, so I stretched it out and tried it as dialogue only, with, you know, it's actually got sparse narrative in the first book, but, then all of a sudden I was writing a graphic novel. And so that was kind of my first foray into graphic novels and trying that out. And actually my brain really loved that. I think, while I will always continue to write picture books and try for that genre, my brain's happy space is when I get to use more words to tell the story. So that was really a fun discovery.
That's so cool. I didn't know that. And that was one of my questions, was good, the difference between submitting a picture book dummy and a graphic novel.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah, definitely want to know that.
Yeah, there's a learning curve there, because I was thinking, do I have to write the entire book out? Do I have to draw it out? And I honestly, it's, from what I've learned, everybody kind of does it differently. And the more established you are in the industry, I think you can do a little less. But my agent at the time advised me to do like the first 2 chapters kind of cleaned up as a dummy, and then the entire script. So I wrote the entire script. And I mean, I'm more than happy to share like an example of what I mean by script with you guys. But the way that I figured out how to write the script is I looked up, they have like comic strip scripts that it's a little different than graphic novel scripts, because of the way that comic books are just a little different, a lot more action, like there's just a lot more going on sometimes. But I used the elements of that and I sort of simplified it to a point where I was like, if an editor is going to read this, I don't want them getting bogged down with the art notes for every panel and the dialogue, because then you're kind of like glitching out a little bit while you're reading the story. So my goal was that somebody could read it all the way through by just like scanning the art notes, but like reading the dialogue good. So I had like the dialogue, I think was like all italics, and then the art notes were maybe, I'm sorry, the dialogue was bold, the art notes were italics. So it was like you can pick and choose what you were reading as you were reading it. And so that was kind of fun to figure out. It was like a little puzzle on how the best way to display it and to send it in. And then we did maybe 3 or 4 color spreads that we sent with it. We sent a whole packet. We sent a little synopsis. We sent some ideas for other books that we could publish later. So it was like a nice little like
Bundle.
thing happen. Imagine.
Was the original monochromatic, or
no, the original was really primary colors. It was like lots of yellows and greens and reds. And the editor, Aaron Pascal, came to us and was like, we really like the story, we really like the line art, but we're wondering how you feel about changing the color scheme. And she gave me some ideas on like titles where she really liked the color. She's like, we kind of like it when it pops. And so the question that she posed was, would you be interested in like a color artist coming in, or do you want to consider other colors yourself and send some options? And so I had said I would be fine with both, but I definitely wanted to give it a try myself. And so we submitted, I think, 3 or 4 other color palette options, and one of them was the limited palette. And when I created the limited palette, my agent was like, I really like that one. And I was like, okay, fingers crossed. So we sent the options, and they chose the limited palette, and it was their idea to use a different palette for each book.
That's gonna make it cool.
Let's do it. So
That's gonna be really nice when the whole series is put together.
yeah, I do think it's like something I hadn't thought about, and I'm so glad that we pushed it that far. It's just kind of one of those examples of how like many minds together make stuff cool.
How many I see here, I'm holding Birtle is the first one. It's Birtle and the Purple Turtles is book number 1. Book number 2 is Birtle and the Very Unwelcome Gary. So how many colors do you have in each? Like I see 1, 2, 3, and then the white and the black.
Yeah, we didn't really do Pantone. There wasn't like a limited, it was just pink and purple and anything in that family kind of lived in that space. So it wasn't as limited as it could have been.
Yeah, no, that would make it challenging though.
Yeah, it really would. With all the different patterns, it was challenging to kind of come up with the initial color scheme and how we were gonna, like, whether Tootie was gonna have pink in her or Teeny was gonna have any purple in her. And so it was kind of like this little mind game that you had to kind of make a lot of decisions, and what did those decisions mean. And
especially in this page, I don't know if I'm going to be holding it up good, in that panel where you have all the grandparents, all the other turtles, and everyone else, and having to distinguish each one with what you did is you used a different pattern for which was genius, different pattern for the turtle shells. So like the grandma has flowers, the other one has like kind of checkerboard pattern. That's actually quite genius. What do you use? Are you on Procreate, Photoshop? Yeah. What do you use?
Procreate. And I don't know who's listening to this, but if you're like just starting out, I want to say I was doing I was doing drawing by hand and then scanning my art in and then recreating it in Photoshop for a long time. Then I got a Wacom tablet. But what changed everything for me was the Wacom tablet. And now I work on my iPad, and so that I can draw directly onto the screen. I think the reason why that changed everything for me was that I could make a million mistakes.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter. It didn't take time to take the mistakes away, when it didn't ruin supplies to take the mistakes away. So it was kind of like a mindless, like eternally trying on different things and different ideas. So I think when I saw the biggest jump in my art, it was when I went to digital art.
And I have to test this is true.
Yeah. And I really admire people who are doing traditionally, the traditional art, because I'm like, wow. My brain is just like, I can see how intentional all of the work is. And that's very cool to me.
Yeah, I have to admit, like the magical box, the iPad has been a game changer. Even to try different patterns.
You're like traveling. I like take it to gymnastics class, and
portable.
So, yeah, that's been nice.
Absolutely. So let me see. What do you use to illustrate? I'm glad that now you had you talked about your agent and how she helped you choose the colors. I know you had a major catastrophe with your agent, and if you want to expand on that, mainly because it's a good lesson for the world didn't end, and something that was so big in your career that could have derailed you didn't. You found a way around it, and you were able to come up with out of that really scary time.
Yeah, it didn't feel great, guys. It was so what happened, just like a Cliff Notes version, is my agent was Jordan Hammersley, and she was with New Leaf, and everything was great. We were all happy, and one day out of nowhere, it was actually about 10 o'clock on Friday night, we all got an email that said we were no longer represented by Jordan or by New Leaf. They did say, like, you can contact us through the weekend if you have questions. So I think anybody can assume that that's quite jarring. Jordan was a great agent. I loved being with her, and we had a lot of success together. But she couldn't speak with us on it for obvious reasons. And so we were kind of just like left in the lurch. So we had a lot of questions. It was stressful. It was Mother's Day weekend, which felt like a real doozy. I just remember like we were out on Mother's Day and I was just kind of like foggy and zoned out. But essentially what happened was I had a contract that hadn't come through yet. So I had an offer without a contract yet. And so I think that was like an extra stress because I really was excited about that contract coming in. And maybe it gets easier when you have like more, when you've experienced contracts more, but this was like my second. I had done illustration projects before as work for hire and they were great, but like this was my second author illustrator book and or series, and it felt really
It's a big
vulnerable to
deal.
suddenly be without representation. So but one thing that in hindsight and while I was going through it that was really amazing is that the people that I was going through it with were incredibly supportive. We immediately got on this Slack chat and everybody was communicating with what they had been able to figure out and what they were doing and maybe what they could do, and who was, in a position where they felt like they could wait and see where the chips fell because we didn't really know what had happened. And others were kind of like, like me, I was like, I need answers. I don't know what's happening. So that was nice. The kidlit industry is like no other. Like people who weren't even involved were reaching out and saying, let me know if I can help. And actually, one of my kidlit friends reached out and was like, I actually think you would be a good fit for my agent. She was referral only. And she's like, if you would like me to give you a referral, I will. And so I was like, yes. And that's how I got connected with Elizabeth Bennett. And I had originally contacted her and she had said, listen, I can help you through all of this. And that does like, it was like a friend in the industry was helping me. She was saying like, you are not beholden to me by any means for anything. But I will help you answer questions that you might have on how to navigate this issue. And that was really nice. So she did help advise me on some things. And then eventually I was like, I would like to query you. Friends forever.
So weird. Yeah.
so that was really nice. So that is how like a very Cliff Notes version of how I got represented by Elizabeth. And that was a huge relief to me because of what I had kind of still in wait for me as far as like needing somebody to negotiate a contract and that sort of thing. So it wasn't a great way to tell everyone. I think I understand why it happened the way that it did, and I still kind of think that they could have done it better. But
the timing alone sounds like it could have been planned a little better.
Yeah.
Friday before Mother's Day.
Yeah, if they could have done it like 3:00 on a Monday.
Yeah.
Would have
Right,
made
where you can get
like
some answers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Time to figure this out.
Yeah.
I'm not as business minded as many, so maybe there was a solid reason, but I will never know. But it was fine. I had a lot of communication with them afterward, and they were they gave me everything that I needed to move to the next step. So it was all okay.
Yeah, but what a scary thing, because
Yeah.
especially with a contract, like with an offer hanging there.
Mhm.
So your new agent was able to pick that one up and take it to the
Yeah,
contract.
yeah, and
That's so good.
yeah, and Jordan is back into agenting now, and she has an agency that, as far as I know, is serving her very well, and vice versa. So we have we have gotten back to equilibrium. We are
Yeah.
all balanced again now.
All
Just
as well.
a big upset for a minute for
But
every.
how long did it take from the moment that that agency dropped everybody to you were back with an agent?
Um, I want to say 1 or 2 months. It felt
Okay.
like forever, but I don't think that it was. I think it was about 1 or 2 months, because I was
Okay.
immediately, I you listen, I exist on like a level 9 of anxiety. So that happening to me was like, I was like, I need to wrap this up yesterday. I cannot have this like sitting in my mind at all, or it doesn't go well for me. So I moved really quick.
Yeah.
So
I, I found it stressful when I made the choice to change agents. And that was like I made that choice and I found it
Mhm.
stressful. I can't imagine what it feels like when someone pulls the rug from under
To
you
not have a choice. Like, yeah,
and
yeah,
not,
you,
yeah,
that wasn't your, yeah, that
and not
wasn't.
have a choice.
Yeah, I mean,
That
and you're putting yourself in a vulnerable position like that, it is scary. And
yes.
I didn't know if I was going to find an agent again, and that was alarming too, because it is so competitive out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And unfortunately, they're so necessary. I mean, I don't know when to say unfortunately, everybody has a role to play, but really, like you're very limited without an agent
Yeah,
nowadays.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
On
Um,
to happy. Let's talk about a happier topic.
yeah, that worked out. So let's leave that monster behind.
Well, we can do this one, Olga.
Okay,
We skipped. How do you keep your characters consistent?
sure.
oh gosh, a good question. Um, for Birtle, I did really intentionally make the characters have very simple shapes.
Mhm.
Um, so if you look at Teeny and you look at Tootie, they're very simple characters, and that was helpful to me. Um, I have another a chapter book series coming out, and it's the characters are a lot more complex. The illustration style is a lot more complex, and luckily Ghosty is very simple. He's just, a little white see-through ghost, but the other characters do require a lot, and that, for me, it is probably one of the biggest challenges, because when you're doing 96 pages, those characters could potentially pop up 96 different times, and um, you have to make sure you have the right day and the right clothing for the right day. And when the day changes, you have to make sure that the clothing changes. And if they spill something on their clothes, you have to make sure that stain stays throughout the day. So it is a very complex thing. But when I color block everything first. So everything gets a color. So if they have a yellow shirt, they're yellow until the day changes, and then they have a different shirt. And so that way my brain stays engaged with that task through that whole stage. So I'm not completing one whole piece of color art and then completing the next whole piece of color art.
You're not
So
doing each panel. You're doing each
right.
whole page
Yes.
of panels.
Yeah, so it's like everything gets color blocked in page 1 to page 100, whatever it is. And then I can go through and I can double check, like I can read the text and I can say, okay, like for Birtle, the color change. There was no change in color because Tootie was the same turtle she was from the first day we saw her. With the ghosty story, the chapter book, you know, they're going to school, so there's a lot of different students, there's a lot of different days, there's a lot of outfit changes, and so I import all of the pages into InDesign, so that I can scroll through. I turn it into a PDF and I just scroll through, and then I make notes if anything is inconsistent, or needs to be changed at the color block stage. And then once I have that, then I'll overlay all the details like the shading and the outlines and whatever else I need to add. And then I'll do that whole thing again. I'll put it into InDesign, and then I'll send it to the art director, and she'll send it through to design, and there will still be inconsistencies. So,
Yeah.
you know, it's we just do the best we can.
Yeah.
But that's how I do it. I just kind of do it in stages. And so there is one stage where I am like very intentionally mapping out and planning the consistency, and then the next stage is a little bit lighter on that. And if, you know, we're talking about drawing and keeping like the look of them the same, it's kind of the same thing where like there's the sketch stage where I make sure everybody's the right proportions and stuff. And then the cleanup phase gets a little easier.
You said that you're going to InDesign. Are you sweating the whole AI scraping, or you're just like, okay, I don't have time to think about that?
I'm sweating it, but also like trying really hard to not stress over it. Like you do, like almost like self-preservation, and being like, I have to do what I need to do to get this work done and out there, and protect myself as much as I can. But if I think about it too much, I will lose my mind. So it's kind of like I'm not diving into that rabbit hole as much as I probably should, just to keep myself from.
It'll paralyze you.
Yeah,
Keep your sanity.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I don't know. How do you guys feel about it? Are you?
I'm not using Photoshop. I just can't afford it. So I'm like, no, I'm not doing that.
That's fair.
It got too pricey for that. I'm using Affinity. I don't know if they scrape or not, but I'm using Affinity.
I was gonna ask you, because right now I'm having an issue with Procreate, and I don't know if there's an answer, but if so, everybody wants my files in Photoshop files, right? So I can save my file, my art file, in Procreate as a Photoshop file. But when it pops into Photoshop, it's got all these fuzzy issues.
It's not
so I know how to fix that, which is, it's annoying, but I can do it, and I will and do it. But do you have that same issue in Affinity?
I haven't.
I don't think you've tried it yet.
Yeah, I haven't tried it. I am.
All right.
Because you haven't. Yeah, last time for the last book you had Photoshop. You used
me for my last book.
How did you send them your files?
Straight from Photoshop. I mean, from Procreate. Yeah, I sent
it straight from Procreate. File type?
JPEGs.
They didn't ask for layered files?
No, they don't ask me for layered files.
And maybe that was because it was a picture book and it didn't have like black line art or anything. That might be why. And they didn't have to deal with speech bubbles, and so maybe they didn't need layered files.
Yeah, maybe they were adjusting. But also I think I did Birtle as JPEGs because of that. But with Ghosty, you know, there is a lot more design with the book, like the text and the art, and so the book designer is like really doing a lot of work. So
yeah. And I'm wondering, I mean, if I get I did submit a graphic novel. If it gets to that point, I'll have to bite the bullet and get Photoshop again.
No, there's probably other file types you can send in, like I think TIFF. I think they just need to be layered and high res. But
we'll see. Procreate has come a long way.
It has.
And it's amazing what it can do. I mean, I absolutely love it. But there are certain things that I have heard it's in the pipeline of the things that are going to fix. I think eventually they will get around to all of the stuff that is. I think, I don't know. I hear Procreate so often now. I don't want to say it's replacing, obviously, it's not replacing Photoshop, but now with the whole AI scraping, I think it's going to step forward more. Even
Yeah.
with the idea of us having to be moms or dads that are on the go and having to work from your car, from
Mhm.
gymnastics or whatnot, it's just super helpful.
It's
So hopefully
incredible.
they'll get it.
It's like, it's my best friend.
Yes, I know.
I spend the most time with it too.
Excuse me, I forgot to
Oh, it's okay.
yeah,
Um,
this cold that doesn't go away. Let's see. I love this last question because, and I can't believe we're already here. Are we really like that fast?
We didn't ask about the publisher, I guess, did we?
Yeah. Oh, did you have any surprises with the publisher? Any major changes or edits or things you weren't expecting? Any curveballs?
um, only good ones.
Oh,
It was
good.
a lot of things that I didn't know were coming. Like when they sent the cover for Birtle, I had a little spot gloss on there, and I was really excited about that. I got to have end papers, custom illustrated end papers, and I was very excited about that. In fact, I had created a little marketing piece for Birtle, and it was just this repetitive like pop up of like lots of different 2Ds and teenies, like just kind of layered on top of it. No, it was lots of purple turtles, and then there was like 2D and teeny in there, kind of like a Where's Waldo. And I
Yeah.
had posted it. Oh, there it is. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So fine tuned.
And so I posted it, and my editor was like, I feel like these would make great end papers. And I was like, I'm so glad you said that. So, so that was like, that made me really happy. It was always a dream of mine to have custom end papers. And
So
because
you
it's like,
posted it on Instagram or online?
yeah, I posted, it was just like a little, like a 9x6 little illustration. And she kind of contacted me, and she was like, I love this. This would be perfect for end papers. And I was like, 100% yes. Yes. So
So
that was nice. Things with my ghosty book coming up. There, I get a little jacket, like a book jacket that feels really special to me. And I get a little about the author blurb. So I got to like draw myself, which
oh, how cool.
is cheesy, but I was really excited about that. So, all of like those little things that kind of come through the pipeline, and you're like, oh yeah, that's gonna be so fun. So
That's
no,
so cool.
no terrible things, knock on wood. Everything and everyone has been so wonderful.
Was
That's
there
good.
ever a mention of making it soft cover, or it was always hardcover? I absolutely love that it's hardcover.
I do too. And that was another thing I was excited about, when they had proposed that, sent the offer in and stuff. It started out as, what do they call that? It's called something specific, like a case cover or something like that. So it was always going to be hardback, um, which, which was exciting to me, because I felt like that was going to be like a nice book. I was like,
Yeah, a
I'm gonna
sturdy book.
love this book. Yeah.
I have this question that is the one that I like to ask this question to everyone. What advice would you give someone who's starting out? Anything through your entire career that was like, it was a moment that you wish you would have heard this before, or you would have known about it.
Oh boy, advice. This is the question that I'm going to be lying in bed tonight, and I'm going to be like, oh, that's what
I
I
should
should
have
have
said that.
said. Gosh, let me just take a minute, because I feel like
Yeah.
there's so much advice
That's the thing. It's one of those questions that is like, how do you put everything you have learned into one sentence for the next person to
Okay, first of all, for me, digital changed a lot for me because of the way I think that my brain works and the way that mistakes happen and affect my process. And so that was a big one for me when I went digital, but that's not so much advice as just what changed things for me. But honestly, it's gonna be cheesy, but just keep doing it. I am embarrassed about the work that I was querying when I started out. And even then, I was obliviously optimistic. I was like, this is gonna be the one. I'm getting an agent. And and I look back on it and I'm like, that was not the one. That was so far from the, but it was like, if I hadn't done that, then there would be, you just got to build and build and build and build. Um, and that is a process that really worked for me. And some people, really want things to be, perfect and zipped up and excellent, and it should be, but you have to start somewhere. And if you just keep doing it, you're going to build your skills. This is how I'm going to get my unicorn book, guys. I'm just writing unicorn books. I think I've got 3 or 4 already just in the archives. So I'm just going to keep going. Maybe 6, 7, 8, 15, who knows? But when it happens, I want I want the whole world cheering for me. I want them to be like I'm 87 and I finally have my unicorn book, and people are like, what? She did it. She never.
These are gonna be unicorns with walkers.
Right, yeah. I feel like that's my white whale, and I'm gonna hopefully get there. And if I don't, that's fine, but I'll have a lot of little things in my portfolio, I guess. But yeah, just keep going. Be deliriously optimistic in yourself, and don't ever think it's not going to happen. I remember sitting in my kitchen and my kids were small and I was exhausted, and we were low on money, and I was just looking at my husband and I was like, listen, I swear to you, I'm going to get an agent. All of this work is worth it. I just know. And my husband's like, why are you telling me that? I know. But I must have been having this moment of just doubt. And I was in the basement of my creative dreams. And I think 3 weeks later, I got my agent. It was such a weird moment of realizing, of saying that out loud and getting it. So anyway, I'm just here to say, just be deliriously optimistic about yourself.
I love that. How do you handle rejection? Because I'm knowing you and looking at how positive you are. Do rejections beat you down, or you're like, okay, and keep going and push them back?
There, I might even dissociate a little bit from rejections. There's because some of them feel worse than others, and I think that's probably true for everyone. But we just went out with a book and it didn't get picked up, and I'm just like, okay, well, I got to make time to write the next one. So maybe it's an expectation of, or just an acceptance of the fact that not all of the books are going to sell. Not everything is going to hit like it should, or you think it will. So it's just kind of like a movement through it. You're like, okay, that one wasn't it. Well, what's the next one? And there is a lot to learn in the rejections as well. you know, if I send something out and like across the board, people are like, I'm not really connecting with the art. I'm like, okay, well, that style wasn't hitting the mark. So, you know, the next one I do will be a different style. Like, I personally have a couple different styles I can pull from as far as art goes. So it's always interesting to me when something like isn't speaking to the masses. I'm like, oh, okay, well, we're gonna put that one away for a little bit. Try something else.
It's all right. I'll come back in style like the 70s and the
Right?
bell bottoms and all that.
Like, I really want big eyeballs. I'm like, oh, I have so many.
I like that. The next one, the next one. There's always has to be a next one, right? You can't just keep shopping around the same book around, and it's just there's got to be a next one. You can always go back and rework it, but there's got to be a next one.
And I've heard of so many people. This hasn't happened to me personally yet, but so many people have sent something out on submission and put it away, and then something comes up and they're like, we should send this book to this editor for whatever reason. A manuscript wish list comes up, or you have a relationship with that editor. Anything could happen. It becomes part of pop culture, and all of a sudden you're like, this is relevant now. And then it gets picked up, and you thought it was, you know, dead in your drawer, and it's not. So that falls in the category of being deliriously optimistic about yourself. Like, if something is done, it's not necessarily dead. It's just kind of not there yet.
Let me ask you back, just because a lot of people think this is fast. You know, they see the success, and here you're having your interview because your book is out already. But all the work that went in to get to this point, it takes years. From the moment that you had the idea when with your daughters that you were naming and making mashes of the names and the idea came on to the book being published, how many years?
Okay. This is not going to be a great example because
never mind. Never mind. It happens like this.
Okay, I have this belief, and I've heard, I don't want to misquote, but I think it was Tara Lazar who said sometimes there's ideas and they just fall out onto the paper, and you know those are meant to be. Like, I don't think she said all of that. I think she touched on like some ideas just fall out and the book is done like really fast.
Yeah.
But I remember that happened with Birtle. As soon as I turned it into a graphic novel, I was like, that was so much easier than any picture book I've ever written. It was like 100 pages, but it was so much easier. And that gave me this like weird hope that it was going to become a book, because I was like, well, that it was just like asking to be created. But with Ghosty, Ghosty started out as a picture book that went on submission, and it didn't get picked up at all. And then it sat in my dead drawer for maybe 4 years. And then it was actually my first agent's idea to kind of pick that up and try it as a chapter book, and I wrote it as a chapter book, and then it got picked up. So
wow, 4 years in a drawer.
Yeah, it's that was probably an exaggeration. It was probably like 2 or 3, but when it goes in the dead drawer, it feels like you haven't seen it in a long time. When you're pulling it back out, you're like, I thought I'd never see you again, and here you are. So I don't know. I think some like some things come really easy and some things don't. Like Ghosty was an idea that I just really loved, and I think my agent did too, and so we just kind of didn't give up on that. And then
are you finding that these okay, what did this be, chapter book or graphic novel?
Graphic novel. I think we call it early graphic novel. That's what I call it.
Early graphic novel.
Yeah.
Are you finding that these are selling easier than picture books nowadays, or it's just that you like doing them and it feels like?
I mean, I don't know. I couldn't sell a picture book. I haven't sold a picture book yet. So maybe maybe they're selling easier. Maybe I'm just better at a graphic novel than I am a picture book. You know, it's hard to tell. But I have so far still not sold a picture book. So, I mean, I don't know, but it does feel like the picture book industry has gotten substantially more competitive and hard to break into or to sell books in. It's still happening. People are still selling them, but you know, you have to be like a 13 out of a 10 to sell a book.
Right.
And so the quality of picture books is like amazing. It's great. We're getting a lot of great picture books, but it is hard to sell them. So
And doing all these panels, that did not overwhelm you. You're like, oh my God, there's so many
oh,
drawings.
I loved it. It's something about having the space to, I, like you, Olga, you have said this by yourself. I'm wordy. And so having the space and the time to like deliver a joke or to set a pace that works, like if you're slowing something down and you need like 4 or 5 like sighs or something, that's really nice. In a picture book, you know, it's like a very fine-tuned art to squeeze like the vibe of 4 sides into like one page.
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
um it's a skill, and I'm always amazed when people do it, but no, I liked having the space to just let it breathe a little bit and drag that story out.
yeah, there is I'm not gonna find it here now on the spot, but there, no, you know what, is on the second book. There is one panel where the turtle just makes a face. And so I think it's after it's my favorite section on that book when he tells the lifeguard that there's some seahorses in the water, which I'm like, it's so funny and so wrong, because it's almost like when you yell. I was telling someone like, how did she get away with this? When you yell fire in a what do you call it, in a movie theater, right? It's
Yeah.
like a no. And this one is saying there's seahorses in the water, like sharks in the water, kind of. And there is one panel where all he does is just kind of like a face in one panel, and I'm like, oh, you needed that panel there, like to see his reaction. And you're right, in a picture book you would not be able to have all those emotions
Hmm.
in scenes because you have one page,
Right.
or
And like it's getting getting to that point, it helps make very clear the intention of the character. So like I, I think I know what your, like, is it like the gulp page where he suddenly like
yeah,
realizes that like,
this one when he has the idea.
yes, okay, yes,
There you go. It's like
grinchy face, yeah.
yeah.
So it's like he goes from like having this like brilliant idea. He's like, I'm gonna get him out of the water because he's jealous that that Tootie or Teeny and Gary are in the water having fun surfing. And then he's like, I'm gonna tell this lifeguard that there's wild seahorses in the water and they're gonna call everyone out. And so that's what he does. And then like a page or two later, the seahorse or the lifeguard is like, I'm gonna need a full report of everything that you saw.
Yeah.
He's like, there's that gulp moment where he's like, oh God, we gotta get out of here. And so, it's like a full circle. Yes. So yeah, so
This
like
is
with
cool.
all of that, you get to see that he didn't really think that through. He wasn't actually thinking that they were going to cancel surfing for everyone, and that he was going to be held accountable for his actions. And so it's it's a nice way to kind of bookend that thought process for him. He's like, whoops, we got to get out of here, I didn't think this through, kind of thing.
When you had Birtle, did you already have the idea for this one? For
that
Birtle and the seagull?
Birtle and the Very Unwelcome Gary was one of the ideas that we pitched in the original packet. So I had pitched, we had the synopsis of the first book, and the first book was done. And then I think I had 2 other pitches for 2 ideas for future books. So I kind of had like packaged it up as like it could be a 3-book thing, or more, however you want. But they did a 2-book deal, and then there's this other idea that's kind of floating still. So we'll see if we get to create it. But
The
when
reason
they
why I asked is because the humor in two, it's up. You know, you get
oh
it has a lot more edge to it on the second one. So I like that. That one's my favorite.
oh thank you, that's
The
nice.
first one was sweet. The first
Very
one's sweet. I like how the turtle's a bit of a jerk on that one.
yeah, he is kind of dealing with his own little demons there. But it is, I mean, it's intimidating to write a second when the first is, they bought it on the first, the second isn't written, and you're like, okay, can I impress you with the second, and how is this going to go? And so that was intimidating. But and actually Aaron had a lot of the really good ideas from that book, and so it was really nice to have, like, I asked her how she wanted to see it, and she was like, you can send it to me however you want. You can send me the skeleton and we can kind of like go through that. You can send me it fully fleshed out, and then we can kind of work on it however you work best. So I was like, okay. So I did kind of like a middle ground. I sent her like the plot all the way through without all the meat, and she was like, this is great, I love it. What if we like made this, we added this here and we added this here? And so it was a really fun collaborative moment. And yeah, it was fun. It wasn't as intimidating as I thought it was going to be. There was never a moment when I thought, oh my god, she is so disappointed that she's invested her time in me. It was all just excitement and good. So
That's awesome. I'm glad it worked out. I really hope there's another one coming soon.
me too.
I hope so. At least it needs a third one.
Right. It would be a real happy little family to get a third. It would
Yeah,
be
that
even
would be
cooler to get like 6 or 7, but
a green one, so we can have
yes,
it.
we
Yeah,
do need
right.
green in there. Yeah.
Lime green one. Do you recommend? We can go back. Just one more question that I thought of now. Have you gone to any conferences? Do you do anything like that too?
Hmm.
Other than submitting, what do you do?
Other than submitting, okay. What I really like to do is highlights personal retreats. Have either of you gone on any of those?
No, I haven't. But
Okay,
it's in my bucket list.
We've heard of them though. We've heard
it's very
people talk
good.
about
I
them.
mean, it's definitely an investment. It costs money to go and do that. And, if you have kids and stuff, that's a whole nother thing. But I have done, I think, 2 of them, and they're amazing. It's like a trip to the spa for someone creative. So that really helps, and I've been lucky to coordinate with other people in the kidlit industry. So we're there with like a group of people. So you can have like in-person sort of critiques, and you're reading your work out loud and getting like feedback, and then you lock yourself in a room and you write for 3 hours, and so that's been really fun.
Oh, sounds nice.
I've done a couple of the Inked Voices workshops, which are nice.
I'm not
But
familiar with those. What are those?
oh, okay. So Inked Voices is like a forum kind of where you are communicating, you kind of signing up to be in different groups, and those groups have like all conversations about anything. You can ask about graphic novels or whatever you're writing at the time. There's a group for it. And they also have, if you're a member, they have workshops you can sign up for that are led by agents and editors. And they're kind of like small groups, and typically there might be like 7 or 8 people in a group, and you trade critiques. So you would end up doing, if there's 7 people in the group, you would critique 7 picture books, and then you would get 7 critiques back. And at the end, you would your work would be critiqued by the agent or editor that is leading the group. And there's one final Zoom call where you're getting feedback. You're listening to the feedback from everybody else's story that the editor has, and they are giving you feedback, and you can ask questions. And so that's actually very helpful. It's a great way to kind of learn about editors and make connections and build a relationship with an editor or an agent and other kid-led people, because you're communicating with them too. And they do longer workshops too, but I haven't done one of those. But I love ink voices. I started out in 12 by 12. Did you guys do 12 by
I
12?
did 12 by 12.
Olga did. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was really good for a really long time. And I haven't done a conference in a very long time. I feel like maybe,
Well, there haven't been many since
right.
COVID.
It
Yeah.
was like COVID. I did the virtual one, and that was nice. It's nice that they do virtual now, but as a mom who works from home and our kids are home, I have found that like it's just a lot to balance going to a conference or sitting and watching a conference. So maybe out of self-preservation, I haven't done one in a while, but I love them. I just haven't gone.
It's a big sacrifice, not financially or time or some, an investment. It is an investment.
Yeah.
But it does take some work on your part to be able to do those,
Yeah. And I think like at CVWI, I don't know if they still do it, but they had their virtual workshop. It wasn't a workshop, it was a webinar where they would have somebody speak every month or so. I really liked those. I'm not sure if they still do those, but
they do webinars
do
online.
they?
Yeah.
Well, they had a free one where it was like every month.
Oh,
yes.
yeah, they still do
They
that.
still do
Yeah.
those. Okay, yeah. I was
Yeah.
loving those for a very long time too.
Yeah, I think they
Yeah.
call them workshops. I think, I don't remember, but
Yeah.
I do remember the free ones that were good.
Not quite a webinar.
Yeah, I am. And what I started doing is going to, because our region kind of fizzled out a little bit, maybe while they're changing guard.
And
So
COVID did that too, I think.
yeah. And so I've been going to others for webinars, and I think I'm going to see one. I don't even know if this is, I'm going to space out Ohio, North Carolina, who knows, pick another state, any state. I can't remember which one it is. But I think Brian La Rosa, he's
Oh yes,
our director for Scholastic.
I heard one of his. He does really good ones.
Yeah, he's doing one this week. I think it's next week. The do's and don'ts of Illustrator in it, and it's most of the time you know this stuff, but then it might be worded differently one time or something clicks. So I like doing those when I can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is nice because I also feel like there was a point in which I got oversaturated where I was watching too many, and I felt like I was hearing the same thing, over and over again. And you're right. Sometimes you just hear somebody say it in a very specific way, and you're like, oh,
it clicks.
Yeah. So that is nice.
Yeah. Well, that's what I have now. I don't have any more questions. Do you have anything you want to talk about? If you want to
promote
anything you want.
Oh my gosh, I feel like I have. Well, I guess I should maybe mention that I have the ghosty book coming out. It's called The Only Ghost in School. But I also have I'm doing an illustration only series as well, which is with the same publisher as Birtle, and it's called Groucho the Grumpy Groundhog.
That's the name.
I think it's grumpy. So that one's going to be really fun. It's kind of like a slapstick, kind of like over the top, like, so fun story. And so I am currently doing the art for that and the ghosty book. So they are both coming out similarly, like summer, fall of 2025. So
wow,
cool.
You're busy.
Next year, yeah.
This has been like it's almost ironic how all of this has landed like right in the summertime right now. It's like all of the final art. They're like, can you have it by the start of the new school year? And I'm like, I just need like 2 weeks where my kids are in school. just enough so that like, and that was, but I was like, oh man, it's like almost ironic how like the scheduling has worked out, but we'll get there. And then I'll be bored once that's all turned in. I'll be bored and sad that I don't have a project. So I have no complaints about the busyness.
That is so real. That is
Yeah.
so real for
Yeah.
me. As soon as something is, I'm like, "Ooh, what do I do?"
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I need the next
Panic.
thing.
Yeah. So
And-
it's
Well,
funny how things work out, but
yeah, I'm very happy to have you here because this was like a moment, like a circle. Because I'm telling you, we have been fans for a long time. Sunny were like, those are so cute. The whole
oh my
mom
God.
illustrations when you were pregnant,
Oh yeah,
those are
those were
so
great.
cool and so real. And I'm like, yes.
Thank you
So
so.
I'm glad to see you succeed.
I was like so sincerely excited to see that you were going to that festival. I was like, yes, I'm finally gonna meet her. I feel like I both of your art. I've watched your art like just like get just so good, and it's been really nice to me. Maybe we were all kind of like doing that together and just working to the moment where we would get to.
I think so. I think we were. We were kind of cheering for each other and
Yeah,
without knowing that we were
right.
doing so.
I love the
Yeah.
kid community. It's like, what other community are we just like? I mean, there's plenty, but I'm just really happy to be in it because I'll be like, oh yeah, my friend, and they're like, how do you know them? They live in Wisconsin. I'm like, we've never met. We just talk all the time on Twitter.
I
Yeah.
feel the same. I think, I don't know, this whole job, this whole world, I love living in this little world of cartoons. I'm like, I'm happy here. I don't like the world outside. This whole kidlet community is where I'm happy. So
Yeah, like if we needed someone to come jump our car, I'm sure we could find someone within the vicinity. Like,
3 states over.
nice everyone is. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm on my way.
Yeah, I'm so happy to just to build a relationship. So happy to know you two. Thank you for having me on.
Well, thank you for
It was a
coming.
pleasure. Thank you for coming.